The man in the beanie and the cold stare. It was a rainy Monday morning in downtown Chicago. The kind of morning where umbrellas flipped inside out, traffic lights blinked slowly through fog, and no one had time for kindness. Everything felt rushed. Busy. Cold. Inside the tall glass building of the Tanner and Bell law firm, the lobby echoed with footsteps and elevator dings. The receptionist, Julia, had been working there for 3 years. She was young, sharp, and didn't like surprises. She had one job: keep things in order at the front desk. No unscheduled guests. No unknown faces. No nonsense. At exactly 9:18 a.m., the glass doors swung open slowly. A man stepped inside, dripping from the rain. He wore a dark beanie, a plain coat soaked through at the shoulders, and old boots that squeaked slightly with each step. His hair peeked out under the hat, and a rough scarf hung around his neck. Julia looked up, unimpressed. He didn't look like a lawyer or a client. He didn't belong. "May I help you?" she asked, already typing a message to security, just in case. The man smiled gently and approached the desk, keeping a respectful distance. His voice was soft, polite. "Hi," he said. "I'm looking for Mr. Ethan Bell. We had a quick chat online. I'm here to drop something off." Julia blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" He shook his head. "No, he told me to just stop by whenever. Said his assistant would recognize me." "And your name, sir?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Keanu," he said with a nod. "KeanuReeves," she frowned. "Right." She leaned forward. "Look, if this is a prank." Before he could respond, she pressed the button under her desk. A silent alert went to building security. "Please wait over there," she said firmly, pointing to the bench near the wall. Keanu nodded, not upset, not surprised. He walked over, sat down quietly, and pulled out a small, worn notebook from his coat pocket. Julia kept glancing at him. Something about him felt off, not dangerous, just out of place. He looked too calm, too quiet, too still. Within 3 minutes, 2 security guards arrived, Paul and Jerry. Both big guys with matching uniforms and serious expressions. Julia pointed. "That's him." The guards walked over to Keanu. "Sir," one said, "we're gonna need to ask you to leave." Keanu stood up slowly, holding the notebook. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said softly. "I just promised Ethan I'd bring this today." The taller guard raised an eyebrow. "Ethan Bell, one of the founding partners?" Keanu nodded. "And he told you to just walk in here, no appointment, no ID?" Keanu looked down for a second, then back up. "Yes." The guards exchanged a look. Julia crossed her arms. "We get weirdos all the time. Actors, wannabes, people pretending to be someone." "Ma'am," Keanu said gently, "I'm not pretending." The shorter guard leaned in. "Look, man, I don't care if you're the president of Mars. This is a high-profile law firm. You don't just walk in." Keanu took a breath. "Can you just give him this?" He held up the notebook. The guards didn't move. Then, right in that moment, just as things were getting tense, a voice echoed from across the lobby. "Keanu?" Everyone turned. It was Ethan Bell himself. A man in his 60s with sharp glasses and silver hair, walking out from the elevator with a surprised look on his face. He rushed over, pushing past the guards. "Keanu, you made it." He grabbed his hand in both of his. "You didn't tell me you were coming today." Keanu smiled politely. "I didn't want to bother you." "Bother me?" Ethan laughed. "You're the reason I'm even breathing these days. Come on, come in." He turned to the stunned guards and Julia. "Everyone, this is KeanuReeves." The taller guard blinked. "Wait, the real KeanuReeves?" Julia's face went pale. Ethan turned to them, still holding Keanu's shoulder proudly. "This man spent 2 months visiting me in the hospital last year. Didn't ask for cameras, didn't tell anyone. I had no one. He sat with me like a brother." Julia looked down. her hands trembling slightly. Keanu nodded at the guards. They were just doing their job. Ethan shook his head gently. Maybe. But sometimes kindness means looking a little closer. He turned to Julia. I'm not angry. But next time, ask before you judge. Keanu smiled at her, not in a smug way. In a kind, forgiving way. No harm done, he said. Julia didn't know what to say. No apology felt big enough. Inside Ethan's office, with the door closed and coffee warming their hands, Keanu finally handed him the notebook. I found this in my old bag, he said. It's the book you used to talk about. The one your dad gave you when you were young. Ethan opened the notebook slowly. Inside were scribbled quotes, poems, even drawings from years ago. His eyes welled up. I thought I lost this forever. You left it in the hospital, Keanu said quietly. I held on to it. Ethan looked at him. You remember everything, don't you? Keanu smiled. Just the important parts. Meanwhile, back at the front desk, Julia stared at her reflection in the dark monitor. She had called security on one of the kindest men alive, and he still treated her with respect. She didn't know what was worse, the shame or the grace. But this moment was just the beginning. Because someone else had seen what happened in the lobby, and they had recorded it. Not to mock, not to harm, but to reveal something the world desperately needed to see. The video that shouldn't have existed. 3 hours after Keanu Reeves left the Tanner and Bell law firm, the lobby had returned to normal. The elevators dinged, lawyers in pressed suits rushed in and out. Julia sat stiff at the front desk, typing, pretending not to feel what was twisting inside her. But her mind was stuck on one moment. The way Keanu smiled after being treated like a stranger. Like someone who didn't belong. Not once had he raised his voice. Not once had he looked down on her. He was kind, calm, real. And she had called security on him. She glanced at the camera above the desk, then at her computer screen. The building recorded everything, but those files were locked. Only supervisors could pull them. What she didn't know was someone else had been recording too. Liam was a young intern. 22, nervous, still learning where the bathroom was. He had been sitting in the back corner of the lobby, waiting for a meeting. His phone was in his hands, like always. But when the man in the beanie walked in, something made him hit record. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way the man walked, calm, not scared. Maybe it was the way Julia's voice changed. Or maybe it was just instinct. He captured it. All. The quiet voice. The rejection. The moment security arrived. And most of all, the way Keanu handled it. No anger. No pride. Just kindness. Liam didn't post it right away. He wasn't trying to go viral. He just watched it again later during lunch. And something about it hit him hard. Really hard. He thought about his father, who worked 2 jobs and never got a thank you. He thought about his mom, who once got thrown out of a bank just because her clothes looked worn. Then he opened his social media and posted the clip with one simple caption. This is how you know someone's truly great. He could have made a scene. Instead, he made grace. He didn't tag anyone. He didn't use HASH to AGS. He just let the video breathe. And by morning, it had over 3 million views. Julia arrived early the next day. Her hair still wet from the rain, her eyes tired from not sleeping. When she opened her email, the first message was from her friend across town. Is this you with Keanu Reeves? She clicked the link. And froze. Her hands shook as she watched herself on screen, telling Keanu to sit, calling security, standing firm. And then, the moment Ethan Bell came in, smiling like he had found a long-lost brother, she felt sick. Comments were flooding in. How can someone treat Keanu like that? He handled it better than most people ever would. This is exactly why he's different. Some were angry, but many were amazed. They weren't watching to judge Julia. They were watching because of Keanu's response, how he stayed respectful, how he chose dignity over ego. Julia closed the laptop. Her breath was shaking now. Meanwhile, across the city, Keanu sat alone in a small diner near the river. He had no idea a video had gone viral. He had no idea the internet was now calling him the man who redefined grace. He was just sipping black coffee, reading from an old poetry book. When his phone buzzed. It was a message from his assistant. "You need to see this. It's everywhere." Keanu clicked the link and watched himself. From the outside, he saw how he looked. How soaked his coat was. How small that moment must have seemed. But how big it had become. He sighed. This wasn't supposed to happen, he whispered to himself. He didn't do it for a crowd. He didn't do it for thanks. He just did what he believed in. Later that afternoon, Julia stood at her desk, unsure what to do. Unsure whether to apologize or just disappear. Then the elevator dinged. Keanu walked in. Not with security. Not with a camera. Crew. Just with a brown paper bag. Julia looked up. He walked straight to her. "Hi," he said gently. "You okay?" She nodded, tears already forming. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You were doing your job," he interrupted kindly. "I understand." She looked down. "I still judged you." Keanu placed the paper bag on her desk. "Banana bread." He smiled. "It's from a small shop down the street. Best in the city." Julia opened the bag. Inside was a loaf, still warm. "You didn't have to do this." "Maybe not," he said. "But I believe in returning to places where kindness is still possible." The video kept spreading, not because of what Julia did, but because of what Keanu chose not to do. And far away, a young boy saw the video on his school tablet. A boy who had been bullied for years. And for the first time, he smiled, because he realized that strength didn't have to be loud. Sometimes it could be soft and still shake the world. The boy who stopped speaking in a small town hundreds of miles away. A 13-year-old boy named Josh sat in the back of his school library, earphones plugged in, his face hidden behind the glow of a tablet screen. He didn't like crowds, didn't like speaking, and most days, he didn't like himself very much either. It had been 6 months since Josh last said a full sentence out loud. He used to talk. A lot, actually. He told jokes at the lunch table. He answered questions in class. He even played the lead role in a school play once. But then came the bullying. Quiet at first. A whispered nickname here, a smirk there. Then louder. They made fun of how he walked, how he stuttered sometimes, how he cried during a movie once in class. One day, after he fell in the hallway and someone recorded it, the video got shared. Again and again, he stopped talking that afternoon. Not because he didn't have words, but because he was tired of people twisting them. And yet, there he was now, watching the video of a soaked man in a beanie getting told to leave a law firm lobby. Josh didn't know who Keanu Reeves was. Not really. He had seen his face on posters maybe, but he never watched those movies. What he saw now, though, wasn't an actor. It was a man who didn't argue, didn't fight, didn't try to prove himself. He just stood there. Listened, nodded, and forgave. When the older man came down the elevator and hugged him, Josh's throat tightened. He watched the video again. And again. By the 5th time, something in him cracked. Not in a bad way. In a quiet, healing way. Later that evening, Josh's mom walked past his room and noticed the door slightly open. Josh was sitting on the floor, the tablet still glowing beside him. The video frozen on the moment where Keanu handed the receptionist banana bread. She walked in slowly. "You okay, baby?" Josh didn't look up at first. Then, in a voice she hadn't heard in months, he whispered, "Can we make that?" She blinked. "What?" "The banana bread," he said again. A little louder. His mom's eyes filled with tears. She didn't say anything. She just dropped to her knees and held him close. The next day, Josh brought a small lunch bag to school. Inside was a slice of banana bread and a printed note. It said, "If you feel like you don't belong, watch this video. It helped me. Maybe it'll help you." He left the bag on the desk of a girl in his class who sat alone every day. Her name was Emily. People whispered that she was weird. No one ever talked to her. When Emily opened the bag and read the note, she didn't smile. But later, in the library, she found the video. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't eat lunch alone. Josh sat beside her. Quiet. But present. And it was enough. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, things were shifting at the law firm. Julia had printed out some of the comments from the viral video and placed them on the staff notice board. Not to boast. But to remind everyone of what kindness looked like when no one was watching. The managing partners called a meeting. They asked her to speak about the moment with Keanu. At first, she was nervous, but she said something that stuck with everyone. "It wasn't just that I judged him," she said. "It's that I did it without thinking twice. I forgot that sometimes people who seem out of place are exactly the ones we need to let in." People clapped. Some even cried. Keanu, of course, stayed out of the spotlight. He had returned to his quiet life, doing what he always did, reading, helping people without telling anyone, and riding his motorcycle through quiet roads where no one stopped him for photos. But something unexpected happened. He got a letter. Handwritten. With shaky penmanship. From Josh. Dear Keanu, I didn't know who you were until I watched that video. Now I do. I mean, I know you're an actor and all. But I think you're something else too. I think you're brave. Because you were kind even when people were mean. I used to talk a lot, but then people started being mean to me. So I stopped, but after watching you, I talked again. Just a little. But it felt big. Thank you for that. I made banana bread too. It wasn't perfect, but it felt warm. Like you. From Josh. Keanu folded the letter slowly. Held it to his chest for a moment. Then placed it in the drawer where he kept only the most special things. That same week, he made a quiet trip to a local bookstore. Asked if they could order 10 copies of a small book about courage and quiet strength. He didn't say why, but the owner saw the title later, The Boy Who Found His Voice. And on the dedication page, it simply read, "For Josh and every silent hero." What happened in that lobby was never planned. But it sparked something no one saw coming. A kindness movement began. Strangers shared small stories of compassion. People started leaving banana bread for receptionists, nurses, and bus drivers. Not because of the bread, but because of what it meant. Respect, without recognition. Kindness, without condition. And far away. In a town where a boy once stopped speaking, the world heard his voice again. The stage, the silence, and the unexpected voice. 12 weeks later, a small envelope arrived at the law firm's front desk. Julia found it early in the morning. It had no return address, just her name written in uneven blue ink. Inside was a printed flyer and a sticky note. The flyer was for a middle school event in a quiet town far outside Chicago, a talent show. The title read, "Finding Your Voice. Student Showcase for Kindness and Courage." And on the sticky note, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for being part of something bigger. I'm reading a poem. If you ever want to come, that would be cool." Signed, Josh. Julia sat frozen, holding the paper. She had never met Josh, never spoken to him, but somehow, she had become part of his journey. She didn't know if she could go. But she knew someone who could. By evening, Keanu Reeves had read the same note. He stared at the flyer quietly, then looked up at his assistant. "Get me to that school," he said, "but no press, no noise." "I'm just there to watch," the assistant smiled. "Of course." The gymnasium of Lincoln Middle School was packed. Folding chairs, streamers, paper lanterns, everything handmade by students and parents. The stage was small, with a blue curtain that barely closed. Most kids signed up to sing, dance, or do comedy skits. The energy in the room was light and nervous, but the final name on the list was whispered around with curiosity. "Josh is going up? He hasn't talked all year. What's he gonna do?" Keanu sat quietly in the last row, hoodie pulled over his head, trying not to be noticed. He looked around the gym. He saw laughter. He saw proud parents. And he saw one chair in the front empty. Then, just before the last act, Josh's mother quietly slipped into that seat. Her hands trembled. When Josh stepped onto the stage, the gym fell silent. He was small. His shoes were a little too big. His papers shook in his hands, but he walked to the microphone and stood still. And then he began to speak. His voice was soft, like paper against wind. But it held steady. This is a poem for anyone who's ever felt invisible. His words floated out into the room like music. Each line told a story, not just of pain, but of rising. He spoke of lockers that slammed, of names that cut, of lonely lunches and long nights. But then, he spoke of banana bread. Of a man in a soaked coat, of a smile that didn't demand anything in return. And the last line? "Some people shine by being seen. Others shine by simply seeing you first." There was silence. Then applause. Real, roaring applause. And Keanu? He stood slowly in the back, clapped once, then quietly slipped out before anyone noticed. Outside. In the parking lot, the air was crisp and the sky clear. Keanu stood by his car, ready to leave. That's when Josh appeared. His mother walked behind him, but stopped at a distance. Josh walked up, hands in his pockets, and looked up at him. "You came." Keanu smiled. "Of course. Why?" Keanu shrugged. "Because someone once showed up for me when no one else did. This was my turn." Josh didn't speak for a second. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A coin. An old, scratched quarter. "This is the first thing I ever kept from that day," Josh said. "When I watched your video, it was in the banana bread bag. Felt like luck. I want you to have it now." Keanu looked down at the coin, then back at Josh. "You sure?" Josh nodded. "I think someone else needs it now more than me." Keanu took the coin and placed it gently in his jacket pocket. "Thank you," he whispered. The next day, the school principal uploaded a short clip from the event. Just Josh's final line and the standing ovation. Within hours, people shared it everywhere. "The boy who didn't speak," and "the words that healed us all." Celebrities quoted him. Teachers printed his poem. Even news anchors read it live, holding back tears. But the best part? A campaign was born. #Shine by C. Inga movement, where people left anonymous kind notes for strangers. In cafes, in schools, on buses. Messages like, "I see you. You matter. You're not invisible to me." And in a quiet bookstore, a woman picked up a poetry book written by a boy named Josh. On the inside cover was a dedication to the man in the beanie and to the woman at the desk who learned to look again. Julia cried when she saw it, not out of guilt, but out of pride. Because sometimes being part of someone's story, no matter how small, can change the world in ways you never expected. But the world still didn't know one thing. How Keanu Reeves really felt about all of it. And one quiet interview would finally reveal the truth behind that rainy morning. The quiet interview that shook the world. Months had passed since that rainy day in the law firm lobby. The viral video had long faded from headlines, but its impact still echoed across schools, hospitals, and coffee shops. People still left sticky notes with kind words. Banana bread sales quietly went up. And kids like Josh, once silent, were writing poems and standing taller. But the man at the center of it all, Keanu Reeves, had remained silent. No tweets, no interviews, no statements. Until one day, without warning, a small podcast channel called The Human Hour uploaded a surprise episode. Title: Keanu Reeves Speaks, What Really Happened in That Lobby. There was no fancy intro. Just a soft piano in the background. Then a voice. Keanu single quotes s. He sounded calm, a little tired, but warm. I didn't plan on talking about that day, he said. I didn't know someone had filmed it, but maybe it needed to happen. He paused. I walked into that law firm just hoping to return something important. A notebook filled with memories. It belonged to a friend who once sat in a hospital bed, thinking no one would visit him. I visited, not because I'm a hero, but because that's what people should do. His voice grew a little quieter. I didn't expect anyone to recognize me. I wasn't dressed up. I wasn't Keanu the actor. I was just Keanu. And when the receptionist asked me to leave, I understood. I didn't take it personally. How could she know who I was? He took a deep breath. What stayed with me wasn't how I was treated. It was how easy it is for all of us to forget how much someone might be carrying. She didn't know I had driven 4 hours that morning. She didn't know I had that notebook close to my heart. She didn't know I hadn't slept the night before because I was remembering someone I'd lost. There was silence for a moment in the podcast. Then he continued. Kindness isn't loud. It doesn't show off. It just waits quietly until someone needs it. He talked about Josh. About the poem. About how a small act of patience, one smile, one gentle word can ripple out and touch lives we'll never even meet. I didn't do anything special, he said softly. I just stayed kind, even when it wasn't easy. Within hours of the podcast going live, it became the most shared audio clip in the country. People played it in schools, on radio stations, even in courtrooms and waiting rooms. It wasn't because it was dramatic. It was because it was true. Honest. Simple. Human. Julia listened to the full interview on her way to work. She had left the law firm a month earlier to work with a nonprofit focused on youth mental health. It was called Seen. Their mission? To make sure no child ever felt invisible again. She parked her car outside a school where she was giving a talk that morning and sat quietly for a moment, holding back tears. Then she whispered, "Thank you." Not to the phone. But to herself. Because she had grown. And so had the world. Later that day, Josh was sitting in his classroom when the intercom turned on and the principal said, "Students, please remain seated. We're going to play something special today, just a few minutes long. Please listen closely." The room went quiet. And then Keanu's voice filled the school. The same words from the podcast. And Josh? He didn't cry, he didn't hide, he just smiled. A real soft, steady smile, because his pain had become purpose. That night, Keanu received a small package in the mail. No return address. Just a tiny sticker with a star on it. Inside was a single piece of paper. On it, in big blue letters, were the words, "Your kindness found me." No signature. No name. But Keanu knew. He folded it carefully, placed it in the drawer with Josh's letter, and closed it gently. But something unexpected was still coming, because the next day, he received a phone call from someone who had never reached out before, someone from his past, someone who had once needed kindness and never got it. Until now. Full circle. KeanuReeves sat alone in his quiet kitchen, sipping tea as soft sunlight filtered through the windows. The podcast interview had gone out into the world like a message in a bottle. Gentle, honest, never Meant to go viral. He had no expectations. He just wanted to remind people that being kind was still possible. Then the phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. He stared at it for a moment. Then answered. Hello? There was a pause. Then a voice, shaky, older, but familiar. Keanu, it's Thomas. Keanu blinked. It took a moment for the name to sink in. Thomas Nolan. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, gone to the same school. But back then, Thomas wasn't a friend. He was the one who made life hard for Keanu, always mocking, always pushing, making sure Keanu felt less. The last time they spoke was nearly 30 years ago. I don't know if I should be calling, Thomas said. But I heard the podcast. Someone sent it to me. And I need to say something. Keanu said nothing, just waited. I was a bully. Not just to you, to a lot of people. I don't even know why. Maybe it made me feel bigger. Maybe I was just scared all the time. But when I heard you speak about kindness, about staying soft even when the world is hard, it did something to me. He paused again. I'm sick now, lungs mostly. I'm not calling for pity. I just needed to tell you I was wrong. That I see now what I didn't then. Keanu took a deep breath. Thank you for calling, he said softly. That takes strength. You're not angry? No, Keanu said. I've carried too many things in my life. Anger's too heavy. I'd rather carry peace. ***. They spoke for a while longer. About the past. About where life had taken them. When the call ended, Keanu sat still for a long time. Sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places. ***. Meanwhile, at Lincoln Middle School, Josh was starting something new. He stood in front of his class, not with a poem this time, but with an idea. He wanted to start a kindness club, not with rules or leaders, just with a mission to notice, to listen, to see. His teacher said yes. And within a week, over 40 students joined. They wrote cards to janitors. Left thank you notes in library books. Even created a wall called the Wall of Unseen Heroes, where people could post stories about classmates or staff who made quiet differences. Julia, now working full-time with Scene, traveled to schools across the country sharing stories of silent strength. But one day, she received a call from a principal who said, I want you to come meet someone. She agreed. And that's how she ended up back in Lincoln Middle School. Watching Josh present a new award at assembly. It was a handmade medal, crafted from paper, glue, and a small coin glued in the middle. He called it the Quiet Hero Award. And he gave the very first one to the school janitor. The whole room clapped, but Julia? She wiped tears from her eyes, because this was what healing looked like. As for Keanu, he kept living simply. Still reading. Still riding his motorcycle. Still avoiding the spotlight. But now, wherever he went, strangers smiled at him, not because he was famous, but because he reminded them of something they had almost forgotten, that being good quietly, consistently, without needing applause, is still one of the rarest and most beautiful things in the world. One night, as he walked through a quiet bookstore, a girl tapped his shoulder. She looked nervous. Maybe 15. Are you the guy from the banana bread video? Keanu smiled. Maybe. She pulled something from her backpack, a slice of banana bread wrapped in foil. I don't have words, she said, but this is for you. Keanu accepted it with both hands and said, this means more than you know. He left the store, moonlight falling gently across the street. He sat on a bench. Unwrapped the bread and took a bite. It wasn't perfect, a little dry, but full of heart. And that was more than enough. Because what started with a misunderstanding in a lobby grew into a movement. A healing, a reminder that we all want the same thing, to be seen, to be valued, to matter. And sometimes it just takes one quiet person to see us first.